Okay, welcome back. Baruch Hashem. We're continuing in Masechet Sanhedrin. We are in Kuf Ches Amud Aleph in the art scroll on 108A3, and we're talking about the Dor Hamabul, and we have a pasuk now. Ki hishchit kol basar et darko al haaretz, and all of the basar perverted its way on the earth. Rabbi Yochanan malamesh shehirbi'u behema ahaya, that the man took domesticated animals and made them mate with wild animals. And they made wild animals mate with domesticated animals. So the male with the female with the male, both ways. Vakol al Adam. And they took all of these animals, both haya and behemas, and they made them mate on humans. So they took the males of the animals and they made them mate with female humans. V'adam kol. And then they took male humans and they made them mate with female animals. Amar Ibi Abba Bar Kahana v'chulam hazru. After the Mabul, they all went back to its normal way, except for this creature known as Mitush Lami. This Tush Lami did not go back to its regular until this present day. They are mating with different animals, not their own kind. It's interesting. The Midrash tells us that the animals themselves sought out these unusual pairings. And here Gemara seems to say that the mankind made them mate. So which one is it? So there's an interesting Bet HaLevi, and the Bet HaLevi tells us that mankind's behavior sort of perverted the atmosphere and made that these animals also followed this. So others say that mankind started with them, and then they continued it as well. And then continued it afterwards as well. So anyway, that's the story over there. Vayomer Elohim leNoach ketz kol basar belefanai. And Hashem said to Noah, the end of all flesh is coming in front of me. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, bo oreh kama gadol kohash Hamas. Seeing how bad is the power, how great is the power of robbery. Shaharei Dor Mabul. Avru alakol. The Dor Mabul did all sorts of sins. V'lo nichtam alehem gazar dinam ad shepashtu yedehem begazel. Yet they were not sealed to their destruction until they started doing robbery. Shenema why is robbery so bad? Why was the flood sealed based on the sin of robbery? In note 45 in the article, he says that robbery demonstrates callousness towards man, and God restrained his harsh until all humans began to act harshly towards each other. Meaning, if society can get along, and God will find a way to keep them around. But once society is starting to break down and people are not respecting each other, even it becomes woven into the fabric of society. And even if someone wanted to do tshuva and return it, he wouldn't even be able to do it because it's stolen from someone else, stolen from someone else. The whole society breaks down. At that point, it's the time for destruction. So basically, as long as society can get along with each other, there's a chance, there's a hope. Okay, and there's a pasuk in Yechezkel that says, "Hamas kam lamate resha lo mehem v'lo mehomanam v'lo mehemehem v'lo no bahem," which literally means robbery arose as a staff of evil, neither of themselves, nor of their masses, nor what they amassed, nor is their longing among them. Amar Elazar melamed shezakav asmo kemakel, that robbery stood up like a stick. That none of them are worth it. Okay? None of them are worth it. The evils grew into a powerful staff, which was an angel that was created pretty much. Right? Angels created testifies to the action. So much robbery created this reaction in heaven that stood before God, attesting to the depravity of the generation, arguing to be unleashed against it. So their own sins created this happening up there. And it says at the end, "V'lo no bahim." V'af al Noach nechtam gezadin. Even on Noah, there was a punishment against them. Shenema v'lo Noach bahim, because Noah bahim could be read as Noach bahim. So Lamaisa, why was he saved? Let's take a look next. Tani v'Rabbi Ishmael. Af al Noach nechtach gezadin. El shematzachim b'nei Hashem. Shneimar ניחמתי כעשיתם, ונוח מצא חן בעיני עמוני. And Noah found grace in the eyes of Hashem. So really, Noah was also supposed to be destroyed. But he found grace in the eyes of heaven. Torah Hayim, towards the end of Parashat Bereshit. He says there are 3 or 4 mitzvot a person can do, and he finds grace in the eyes of Hashem. We had a shir a couple of years ago on Parashat Noah, where we discussed some of these items that lead to being matzah hen. In fact, many have been hag of saying Noach matzah hen b'nei Hashem in the Havdalah, because you want a week where you will survive and you will thrive. You want to find grace in the eyes of Hashem. I'll just mention 2 of the things that we learned makes a person find grace in the eyes of Hashem. Number 1 is humility, being humble and being humility. There's a pasuk in Mishlei that says this brings hen to a person. The second item that we found that's matzah hen, that Hashem finds favor with, Hashem puts grace in the person who does an incredible amount of hesed, right? Unlimited hesed. This person with unlimited kindness also taps into this power of hen, of grace. I mean, the whole world could be going down. He has this chen, and he will survive. V'yinahem Hashem ki asad adam ba'aretz. And v'yinahem seems to be as changing course. Ki atarav dimi amar kadosh baruch hu. Yafa asiti shetikanti lahem kevarot ba'aretz. Hashem said, I did well that I prepared graves from them in the earth. Basically, it's good that I decided to destroy them. Destroy the Dor HaMabul. My mashmo k'tiv hacha v'yinachem Hashem. U'k'tiv hatam v'yinachem otam v'yidaber alivam. He comforted them and spoke to their heart. V'yinachem implies that God found comfort in his decision to destroy mankind. So it's not just Hashem is reconsidering it, because that seems to be saying Hashem didn't know and then had a new idea. No, truth is Hashem knew the whole time. It's reconsidering in the sense of how Hashem deals with the people. There's different character traits of Hashem. There's mercy, there's strict judgment. So he reconsidered the way he judges them, right, and where he deals with them. Not really reconsidering, but just changing the mode and going from Rahmanut to something a little more harsh. Okay? The other way, Hashem said, I did not do well that I prepared grace for them in the earth. It says V'yinahem. V'yinahem implies that God was regretful about having to destroy mankind. So he was regretful here that he had to kill them as well. So he's reconsidering and changing his mode of how he's dealing with them, so to speak. The pasuk says, "El todot Noach ish tzadik tamim haya b'dorotav." Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Why does it say b'dorotav in his generation? He was a tzaddik in generation, and not in other generations, because he'd only be a tzaddik in his generation and not in other generations. But Kish Amar, Reish Lakish says b'dorotav. He was a tzaddik in his generation, which was so bad. Kol shekain b'dorot achirim. Of course, he would be a tzaddik in other generations as well. Amar Rabbi Hanina. Mashal Rabbi Yochanan lemah davar domeh. What is comparable to a mashal to the way Rabbi Yochanan explained it? That he was only a tzaddik in his time. What is it compared to? Lahavit shel yain shayita monohat b'martef shel chometz. There was a bottle of wine left lying in the cellar full of vinegar. Since there was a lot of vinegar there, that wine was sticking out and it was noticeable. But anywhere else where the wine would sit, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. So that was Noah. He was a nice guy, but since he was around a lot of bad people, that caused him to stand out. Amar B'Oshaya. No, Mashad Shakish Lamad David Rodome. According to Rish Lakish, that he was a tzaddik in his generation. Of course, he would be in other generations. What was it comparable to? L'tzlohi shel puyaton shahayta monaha b'makom hatinofe. Someone had a very nice flask of perfume, and it was placed in the filth. Makareha nodif. If it's placed in the filth, you can still smell that there's a perfume there. The choshekin bimkom abosim, especially if it's put in a more fragrant place, meaning that Noah was intrinsically and essentially a tzaddik, and therefore no matter where you put him, he would always be a tzaddik. On the other hand, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Noah sort of was the tzaddik that had to be. There was no one else around. So I believe the Alter of Slobodka would explain that sometime when a person is around and he sees that there's no holiness around him, all of a sudden that makes him try to tap in and try to be the tzaddik in that area. And there's no other tzaddikim. And that was Noah, according to Yohanan. He saw there was no holiness, nothing going on, so he kind of like tapped into to do it and encouraged him. The lack of it encouraged him. But when there'll be a lot more of it, then you say, Baruch Hashem, there's holiness around. I don't have to do anything special. Whereas Rabbi Shakish is seeing Noah as no, he was intrinsically, essentially in him was all about being holy. So no matter where he's put, so obviously if he's put in a more holy place, he would be even more holy. Okay. And he blotted out the existence, all the existence that was on the face of the ground. One second, the Gemara asks. If a person made a sin, he has to get destroyed. Why are we destroying all the animals? Animals don't have behira. They're not choosing. Yes, they did sins. We saw that already. But they don't have behira. They don't have a will. So how could you punish them? So Tana Mishum Bishua ben Kurha Mashal L'Adam Sha'asa Chupa Livno V'Hitkin Mikom Minei Suda. Person making a wedding for his son. He prepares the caterer. He prepares the photographer. He prepares everything for the wedding. V'Hitkin Mikom Minei Suda. He prepares everything. Le'yamim. And just days before the wedding, you should never hear about it. Mit bino, the son died. So here he has the wedding hall, he has the chuppah, he has the food, he has everything stationed, and the son is dead. There's no more chuppah. Amad ufizer et chuppato. He goes up and he scatters and destroys the wedding canopy, and he says, "Kum asiti ela b'shvil b'ni." Did I not do all this for my son? Achshav shemeh chuppah lemali. Now that I don't have my son, why do I need a chuppah? What's the whole reason why? I created the animals in the world to help the person. Now that you tell me that man is doing a sin, so if the animals are there for the man, why do I need the animals now? So therefore, they were part of the Mabul. So the Gemara then says, everything that was on dry land died, which teaches us velo dagim shibayam, but not the fish in the sea. They were not killed. So the question that you have to ask right now is as follows: you told me really the behemoths don't have to get killed either, but they got killed out because it's like a chuppah and the sun is not there, so there's no need for them. So the same thing applies for the fish. There's no need for them. Who needs them? Okay, and so you have to remember this was a time before eating animals was permitted. So the Maleh Haroim wants to explain as follows. He says that even though some animals are very hard to capture and domesticate or use, at the end of the day, every animal can be harnessed by humans for some sort of work. But have you ever harnessed a fish to plow the ground? Have you ever used a fish or a sea creature to do work for a person? Valken Yosh Lemar. Shachar shein laden tzarich behem shuv gam him in tzrichim yoter. Avla dogim Sheinam ru'im l'malacha klal. Fish that can never do any work. Memela karlo shayach chatam. Shemin adam ein tzara b'dogim. Meaning, you're telling me this, that if I don't have the person, I don't need the animal. That's where animals are usually used by people. It makes sense, even though they're not used, but they could be. But the fish, they're never used by people. Okay? They're never used by people. It's not associated with people. So if you're destroying the people, the fish can still stay around. In fact, interestingly enough, the Benu Yoda, that's the Ben Shchai, and he says, Lefizeh, Atam Edua, that the Nivcharu Hadogin Lumachal Shabbos, that they chose fish to be eaten on Shabbos. Why? Because we know that there is no Gehenim on Shabbos, just like the fish did not get punished during the Mabul. Fish didn't get punished during the Mabul, right? They were safe. So too on Shabbat, we don't eat the fish to show that there is no Gehenna on Shabbat and people are saved on Shabbat. Okay, let's move on a little further. Darash Rabbi Yossi Demin Kasari. Ma dichtiv kal hu al penei mayim. Tekula hekatam ba'aretz. He floats lightly upon the face of the waters. A curse shall be their fate on the earth. Melamed. Shahaya Noah Sadiq Mohiyu Bahim. Noah used to give them Musar. Amralayam, he told the people of the generation of the flood, Asu tshuva, do tshuva. V'im lav, Akadosh Baruch Hu, maybe Adachem et Mabul. He would bring the Mabul. Shall bring the Mabul. Kafen nilatechem alamayim kezikin. And will float your carcass from the water like leather bags. Shenemar kalhu, nemayim. The Lord, esh lokhin mehem kala l'chol ba'olam. And Manoach told them, and then in the future they're going to use your generation, your people, for a curse. Curse shall be their fate on the earth. Noah came over to them when they were taking care of the vineyard. And he said, do tshuva. They said back to him, why hasn't Hashem yet brought the flood? You keep saying the flood is coming. Let him bring it already. Why is he not bringing it? Hashem says, I have to remove a person before I bring the flood. Presumably, this is Metushelach, who dies the day before the flood. Hashem doesn't want the tzaddik to go through the pain of destruction. Okay? So I'm waiting to take one of them away before I can bring the Mabul. Someone explained this, and this is like the Yad Ramah, I believe, that wants to explain it, that it's not Noach speaking, rather Metushelach. And Metushelach is telling the Dor Mabul, yes, the Mabul is coming, and why didn't it come yet? Because Hashem wants to bring out one person who can save humanity. Wants to bring Noah, who would then save humanity. Okay. So now, imken lo nifne derech keramim. So when he said it's not coming right now because there's a delay, so they said, okay, if that's the case, we're not cleaning up our act, we're not changing, we're not doing anything, because I say you have a lot of time. Why would we do this now? Okay. Kuf ches amin bet, as we continue. Dora Shrava, my dichtiv, lapid buz la ashtod, sha'anan nochan moadi raga. A flame is scorned by commonplace in dreams, destined to stumbling feet. Noah Hasadik give them musar. And he would say stuff that were very harsh, like flames. And they would scorn him. They would say to him, Zaken, Teva Zulama. Why do you have this Teva? What are you doing? So he said to them, Hashem is going to bring the Mabul. Amru Mabul Shama. They say, what type of Mabul? If he's going to bring fire, we have a salamander whose skin is repellent to fire. So we'll just use that. Vim Shalmayim, who maybe if he's going to bring water, Imina Aretz, who maybe we have certain metal plates, iron plates that will cover the ground and it won't let the water in. We have something called an uqab, sort of a sponge that can take the waters that is coming down from Shemaim. Basically, they're saying you're telling us God's going to bring a Mabul, but we sort of have technology that will able to counter whatever godly phenomena Hashem could create. Amar lahem. So Noah said to them, Hu mevi mi ben ikver raglechem. Shneemar nachon lemoadei ragel. Hashem will bring the flood of water from between the heels of your feet. Okay? If you take a look at the note number 6, that with your own bodily fluids, Kadosh Baruch Hu can kill you. So, a lot of people, they sort of die from fluid overload and the like. Fluid in your own body can be the killer. So, Tanya, just take a look at note 6 in the arts 1 B1. Tanya, me hamabu kashim shichvat zera. That the water of the Mabul was as thick as Shichvat Zera, as the seed. As it says between the feet, which is the Shichvat Zera, and it was hot and sticky and viscous, just like that. It wasn't your stam regular water. Since they did a lot of sin with immorality, with improper relationships, or therefore they were punished with boiling water. So it was midah keneged midah. They used their substance incorrectly. So I who punished them like that. And the water calmed down. In Miguel Esther. And the king's anger cooled down. So Yishicha means cool down. So it must be that the waters originally were very hot, just like semen. Vayu l'shiv'at ayimim umei mabu hayu al haaretz. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters flood were upon the earth. Mativam shel shivat yamim. What was the nature of the 7-day period? Amarav el yimei avil shemetushelach. The reason why we had to wait 7 days is because it was Metushelach passed away, and we had to do Tet Shiva. For a hesped of a tzaddik prevents punishment from coming to the world. Why? Because the people go to the hesped and they see they get inspired, they want to change, they want to do better. There's a thought of tshuva in the world, so therefore they didn't bring the punishment. Davar acher, another explanation. L'shim'at ששינה עליהם הקדוש ברוך הוא סדר בראשית. שהייתה חמה יוצאת ממערב ושוקעת במזרח. Hashem changed the 7 days of creation. He now made the sun come out in the west and set in the east, telling them, you think you have this technology that can save you. You have this salamander umbrella and you have this waters and whatever you're planning to withstand it. Here, take a look. The whole creation is not what it is. Whatever you thought was is not. Right? Hashem gave them a long time, 120 years to do tshuva. He even gave another chance of 7 days to do tshuva. God gave them to taste the olam haba. Hashem gave them 7 days of olam haba. Why? Just punishing them is not enough. They have to know what they really lost. And if you go to olam haba, and then all of a sudden you right away get punished, you now see this stark contrast, and you would see how much more you were actually punished. So they would see what good that they did not get. Okay, Pasuk says, and he took 7. Should take 7 of the clean animals, 7 pairs or 7 only, man and a wife. And it says there, Ish v'ishto, ishut lebehema mi'et. Have you ever seen an animal get married and have a ketubah and be a wife? And there's no such thing. They stay within the species, but they're not with the same person. Ishut lebehema mi'et le itla. Amar Shmuel ben Achmani, Amar Yohanan, ma'otam shelo nevda behem aviram. Take into the tent, into the teva, those who have not done the sin Ish Yishto, I'll be with a different species. Huh? So, so I think Ish Yishto means they stay within their species. Mana yada, how did Noach know? Amr Hizda, Shiviran Lefnei Teva, they would come in front of the ark, and Kol Shat Teva, Kol Tato, anything that the Teva led into the Teva, they do Shlon Debehem Avidah. So Noach knew that these animals didn't do any Avidas. Kol She'ena Teva Kol Tato, and any in which um the teva did not take in, so then they know that they these animals are not getting permission to go into the teva. They're the ones who did it, that did sins, and therefore they're not able to go in. No, the animals came on their own accord. So it's not to say that Rabbi Yochanan doesn't agree with that. So they came on their own. And then Teva took in which ones they wanted. Were the ones who were proper would come into the Teva, versus those who couldn't did not. עשה לך תיבת עצי גופר, מה גופר? אמר בעד אמר דבי רבי שלה, זו מבליגה. It's מבליגה. Amalek gulamish. Basically, they're both two types of trees from the cedar family. So what ta'aseh the teva? Make a light in the ark. So interestingly enough, in our Chumash, we have the Rashi, and Rashi brings two opinions where the light came from. If it was the window or the precious stone. And the Gemara just talks about the precious stone. Rabbi Yochanan, Amar LaKadosh Baruch Hu Noah, Keva ba avanim tovot u'margaliyot, set ark precious stones and pears. Kadesh yot meorot lachem ketzoraim. So that they act like noontime, and they allow you to see. Okay, but the Torah does say that he had a window there. So what would he have a window? Well, if it's not for light, so it's possible. First of all, if the whole world is being destroyed around you, probably shouldn't look, especially if you don't really deserve it. If it's not really telling you to have. But also, if there was a window and it wasn't used for light, so then it was just used for a way out. And that's how he sent out the raven and sent out the dove later on. So, Amar Yochanan, Amar LaKadosh Baruch Hu Noach, Keva ba'avanim tovot u'margaliot. Right, set it into the ark, precious stones and pearls. So they should be for you like the afternoon light. Then it says, "Ama techalel milmala devahachi dekaima." For this built will last. Tahtim shenayim shushim ta'aseh, and it should have bottom, second, and third decks. Hana, which taught in one brayta. Tahtim lazevel. The bottom deck was for the garbage. Elyonim le'adam, and the top was for the person. Just want to point out that that's just one opinion in the Gemara. There are other opinions in the Gemara of how many floors and what type of floors and whatever. No, the three floors everyone agrees. Just what was on which floor. That's actually up for debate, so to speak. Let's give me 1 second. Okay, here. In the Midrash, Bereshit Rabbah tells us one opinion is that the garbage was on the bottom and the people were in the middle. The people were with the Balei Hayim Torim, with animals that were tahor and birds that were tahor. Ve'elyonah the Balei Achayim Timim. And the top floor was for the non-kosher animals. Some explain, another Pirush, is that the bottom was for the Bali Haim that were Tameh. The middle was for the people that and the Torah animals. And the top one was for the garbage. Why? So the smell of the garbage doesn't waft through the whole house, through the whole Teva. And it goes straight out rather than filling up the entire Teva. So there are different opinions, but our Gemara is the most famous one most kids know, that the bottom floor is for the garbage, middle was for the behemoths, and the top was for Noah, his family, and even for some of the kosher animals. Vaishalach et ha'orev, and he sent the raven. Ama Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said, Shuvat nitzachat eshivu orev lanoach. The raven said to Noah, Amar lo, Rabecha tanahini. Your God hates me. Hashem hates me. Vatasinatini. Now you hate me. How do I know Hashem hates me? He said, take from the Tahor 7, and from the Tameh only 2. Right? So he doesn't like me so much. Now you know how you want to go check the outside, see what happened with the water. You leaving those kosher animal birds that have 7 of them, 7 pairs, 7 only, whatever. And you're sending me, says the raven, who's only 2, you're sending me to go do it when you could choose from a kosher animal. If the heat of the cold get me, then the world will be lacking ravens. So why are you sending me? Oh, you probably want my mate to be your mate. He said, 1 second, Noah said to him, Rasha, wicked one, you're projecting. That's something you would do. I'm not like that. Prove it to you. What was been mutter for me, my wife, he's saying, it was forbidden for us during the year of the Mabul. Okay, we're going to see from Pasuk, Hashem didn't want them to be together during the time of Mabul. And it makes sense when the whole world's being destroyed. You're going and enjoying yourselves and going in the opposite way. Can't do that. Okay? So, no, mutar for me, I don't do. When it's sadly the kosher again, they think I'm going to do something that's asur. And first of all, number one, what is the raven thinking? How could a human even be with a bird? So perhaps someone to explain that he was saying you want to use my mate to mate with some other bird to make some kind of crossbreed, some human experiment that you wanna do. So maybe that's what the raven was saying. And then the question really is the raven speaking? Did Noah just understand what he's saying, or is he like Shlomo who understands animal speaking, or he just understand what he thought he was saying? Some explained that the angel of the raven was doing the talking and Noah was talking to him. Okay, there are different explanations. No, then that's true. The Gemara says, how do we know there was also for them in the Teva to live together? So you see how it separated the men from the woman. You and your sons. Your wife and your daughter-in-laws. When it coming out, it says you and your wife. So you see, it puts the men with the woman, not men and then women. So Amar Rabbi Yohanan, מכאן אמרו שנאסרו בתשמיש המיטה. In this pasuk, we learned that they were not allowed to do tashmish hamita in the table. Tanu Rabbanan. Shlosha shimshu bateva. 3 cohabitated, 3 had relations in the teva. Who are these 3? The chulam lakun, they all got punished. Kelev, the orev, the ham. The Caleb, the dog, the Orib, the raven, and the Ham. By the way, that's what they said. Noah answered back to the raven too. You're worried about your species not continuing, but we know we already got your mate pregnant already. So therefore, and it was a male one. So therefore, the species would continue. Don't tell me you're worried about it being destroyed. That was another explanation. Viham and Ham, Noah's son, also was over the Avera, and he had relations on the Teva. So, what was the punishment? Caleb Nekshar. Caleb, after it was with its mate, it started to get stuck to them for a while, or Caleb was also tied up. He's tied up. Caleb Nekshar. So that's his punishment. Or Evrak. The raven has to spit seed. He doesn't really normally have for reproduction. He has to do some sort of weird thing. It spits. Like I think Rashi says, they spit from mouth to mouth. There's a Rashi I saw. Rokek zera mipiv lipia shel nekiva. Okay, that's what he says. And Ham la Ham was affected with his skin. Okay, fine. וישלח את היונה מאיתו דרות חקרו המים. He sent out the Yonah, which was a kosher on one of the seven, to go and check out if the water had receded, what was going on. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah. מכאן שדירתן שעופות ההורים עם הצדיקים. It says in the pasuk that Noah sent the Yonah from himself. Teaches us that the clean birds are living with the tzaddikim. And the Yonah comes back with a olive leaf that was in its bill, right, in its beak, so to speak. Amar Elazar, Amar Yonah, the Kadosh Baruch Hu. ריבונו של עולם, יהיו מזונותיי, ברורים כזית מוסתרים בידיך, ואל יהיו מתוקים כדבש, ואל יהיו מתוקים כדבש ומוסתרים ביד בשר ודם, rather than sweet as honey, depending on flesh and blood. So basically, Yonah is saying, I'd rather get food from you straight, Hashem, even if it's bitter, than getting sweet food from them. Rather getting sweet food from the humans. I'd rather be dependent on you, Kodesh Baruch Hu, and not dependent on the humans. My mashma, the high taraf ishnadim zonehu. How we know that taraf can be a lashon of bread, of mizonot, of sustenance. Ichtiv, atrifeni lechem hoki. Feed me my portion of bread, of ateni, so lashon of taraf. Okay. Continuing, it says, by their families they came out of the dark. They came out by their families and not by themselves. Oh, each family animal left the ark complete, as no animal died in the ark. But the individual animals did not leave the ark complete. They were weak and considered by the 12-month ordeal. So that's what the Yad Ramah wants to say. The Rabbi Shua pick in note 49 wants to say that it means that sometimes the family came out and not actually the animal itself, because 12 months for an animal to be restrained to such a small confined area would have made him weak, or he went through some sort of metamorphosis. So it just means that the species as a whole, the species came out. Amar Rabbi Amar Hana Bar Bizna Amar Le Eliezer L'Shem Rabbah. Eliezer was speaking to Shem, the son of Noah. They went out by their families. Atun Hechan Havitun. What were you guys doing while you were in the ark? Amarle. We had a hard time in the Teva. We had to feed the day animals during the day. The animals we fed at night, we fed them at night. In fact, Zikita, there was this animal called Zikita. Abba didn't know what he ate. One day he was sitting and cutting up a pomegranate. And a worm fell out and ate. The worm fell out and ate it. The worm fell out of the pomegranate. And the Zakisa, right? The Zakita pounced on the worm and ate it. So now he knows that this Zakita likes the worms. They ended up making something that would make worms, so he would have food for this Zakita. Ara ishta'a zinte. As for the lion, a fever seized it, and sustained. Amarav lo batzir mishtita v'lo tefem mitresar zaina ishta. The fever is either 6 or 12. So some explain 6 to 12 days, meaning that this is the time that Noah got hit by the lion. The guy had the fever, the lion had the fever, so Noah didn't feed him for a few days, and then Noah kept checking he back or not because he ate him in 6 to 12 days. And he must have came around 8 or 9, and since Noah thought he was still having the fever and sleeping, he came a little late, and that's when he got hit. Others learned the story the other way that 6 to 12 does not mean 6 to 12 days, it rather can mean 6 to 12 months. Like Allah who had mercy on Noah, and those who learned that way in by making the lion have a fever. This way, they didn't have to deal with this wild animal and having to feed them or protect the rest of the teva. The amarab. Okay. Arvishana ashkehena abba tigane besafla de tufta. The one time says Shem, our father found this animal called varshina lying in its quarters in the ark. Amallah loba et mizone. Why don't you come out to the mess hall to get your food? The amarle hazitich chazitich dahavat terida. I saw you were preoccupied. I did not want to trouble you. I mean lo atzarach. Amarle yeravad lo timud. Since Noah saw that this animal, this avar shina, was so paying attention and didn't want to disturb Noah, they gave him long life. Perhaps his humility and his humbleness gave himself long life, and he just because of that was zocher to the long life. Now, what animal is this avarshina? Someone explained this is the mythical phoenix, the bird that doesn't die, turns into ashes and reborns itself. So that would have been the bracha that Noah gave him. That wasn't an actual bird, or just some bird that's similar to the phoenix that lives very long time. Amar Rav Hana bar Levi. Amar Shem Rabbi Eliezer. One time Shem Noah's son asked Eliezer, the Abed Abraham, Malchem Izahumarav. Atun Heich Abiditu. When you went to fight against the kings, for the fighters, how did you defeat them? They're such powerful armies. So how did you defeat them? Amalei. He Eliezer said to them, Attack the Barahula Abraham, Hashem made a miracle, Abraham, and and seated him at his right side. They sent the angel Michael to help him. And when he would throw dust, he didn't have any weapon. He just threw dust, and the dust turned into swords. Gili, he would throw straw. Giri, and they became arrows. Shneimar, David mizmor na'um Hashem la'adoni shev lemini ad ashit oivecha adom leraglecha. וכתיב מהעיר ממזרח צדק יקראו ברגלו, ייתן לפניו גויים מלכים יד, ייתן כעפר חרבו כקש נידב קשתו. So you see in these sukim that Hashem was able to turn the sand, the earth, into weapons for Abraham Avinu. And we end with the final famous story that is well known. Nahum Ish Gamzu Abaragil. Nahum Ish Gamzu. He was called Gamzu because he came from a town called Gimzo, according to Rabbeinu Hanano. And Gamzu because he also said the word Gamzu Tova a lot of the times. So Abaragil. They called Havas Al Kadle Amar. No matter what would happen to him, he would say, Gamzu let Torah. This too is for good. Yom Ahad Ba'u Yisrael L'Shadurei Doron L'Kesar. The Jewish delegation wanted to send a gift to the Caesar. So Amru, they said, Behadei Man Nishadad. With whom should we send it? I mean, who's reliable to go send this gift, a lot of jewelry and stuff to the Caesar to find good favor with the Jews? So Nishad Bahadeh Nahum Ish Gamzu. They say, the best person to do it is Nahum Ish Gamzu. The Miluman Benisimu, he lives with miracles. Kimatel who do Deura. He comes to a certain inn. Ba'elemevat. He wanted to stay overnight. Amalei said to him, Ma'ika Bahadach, what do you have in that chest that you're carrying? Amalu, Kamulana Kalakasat. I have a tribute that I'm bringing to the Caesar. Kamubalela, while he was sleeping, they came into his tent and started to look for the chest. Um, the residents came up in the middle of the night. There's innkeeper owners, and they opened his chest. Shakul called the Havagabe, and they took everything they possibly can from inside that treasure chest that was supposed to go from Nechamish Gamza, from the Jewish people, to the Caesar. But they didn't want to leave it empty, so they filled it up with earth. When he arrived there, he came to the Caesar's palace. So this story in here seems to be like he doesn't know that it was earth there. The Gemara elsewhere, where brings the story, says it that he knew how much. He knew that it was taken away. So this story, he didn't know it was missing. According to the other Gemara, he knew it was missing, which is even a greater chiddush. He had so much bitachon to even go with the missing jewelry on purpose. Okay, fine. When he got there, they opened it up. They saw the earth. They said, the Caesar said, "You're trying to insult me?" Amar Gamzul Tova. Nachamish Gamzul said, "Okay, listen, whatever. They're getting upset. Also, Litova." Atal came. He and he dressed up as one of the Roman soldiers. He said, he said to the Romans, maybe this is Avram Avinu's earth that he used in battle. He would throw earth, it turned into swords. Straw, it turned into arrows. Baduk, the Romans tested it. Let's try it. And they found that it was. There was a certain distinct there was a certain distinct district. There was a certain district that was very hard for the Romans to conquer. So the Lord covered the Lord havu kayachle so they threw this earth on it, and they were able to conquer it. The Romans brought Nachum into their treasure vault. They said you gave such a great treasure that we're able to destroy all enemies. Understand? Shekul dina lach, take what you please. Malay lisifta dehacha. He filled it up with gold. They sent him off with great honor. Ki hadarata. When he's on his way home, he returned to the inn where his precious stones and pearls had been. Amalahu hanach deoreh. So this guy who only was seeing him and is saying, "How did it go?" What did you bring back to the emperor? What did you find when you got there? So I'm in them. Whatever I had here, I brought there. Shakle in who? Thereupon the residents took some dirt from their inn. They said, "Listen, we put that dirt into his chest. Must be our dirt is very special, and they're taking credit for it. They're going to go and give now the dirt." And when they brought it to Caesar, they showed him some of the dirt. And Katlinu the Hanach Diore. And then the Romans saw, "Hey, you're bringing me a joke." They told the innkeeper, "You say this is from the same place. It's not. It's not working." So they ended up killing them. Okay, this is where we're going to end the share for this week.